Cool. Well, Paul, hey, this is Paul from Cannibal Corpse, from Metal Underground. So Torture is pretty fresh on the market right now.
Yes.
And we caught up with Rob in February after one of the gigs. I think he kind of explained a little bit of the process behind the album.
Right.
So I'd have a little bit of a different kind of Q&A for you today.
Sure.
Sarcophagic Frenzy, Rob explained, was about zombies.
Right.
So I figured we started off talking about zombies here. Why not?
Hey, it's not a bad subject.
Now, The Walking Dead and zombie films, Resident Evil, it's all getting really publicized nowadays. So I'm wondering, what is your take on it? Do you see the public's taste kind of shifting and to be more accepting of the gore genre?
Yeah, I would think that's a fair assumption to make. I mean, like you just said, Walking Dead and all these zombie movies, and I mean, they're probably more popular than ever these days. So, and I kind of tie that into with how we're doing, I guess, as a band, and our 12th CD, the amount of units we're pushing, that we debuting number 38 on all that. That's just remarkable, and just goes to show me exactly that society is being more receptive to brutal things, to death metal, to horror, to zombies, and all that stuff. So it's a good thing, It can't hurt us. It's only going to help. So we're glad for this, this zombie rush kind of a thing. It's a good thing, because obviously we've been doing it for years. It's
Right.
nothing new to us. So the fact that more people can be into it, I think is a plus, is a huge positive. So.
Exactly. So why do you think that is? Like, what do you think caused that kind of shift?
Well, it's hard to say. I think it just might be the fact that, I look at how death metal's gone, how our career has gone. We're going to be around 24 years this December, and, it's not new anymore, I mean, this isn't new, just kind of like horror movies, like zombie movies. I mean, they weren't really that new in the 80s, but, I mean, when you think of it in the scheme of how many years, Night of the Living Dead, what's that, late 60s, or whatever, and, so it's still, I think, it's still fairly new, but at the same time, well, now we've been around for 30, 40 years in these mediums, so I think it's just society changing, society being more receptive to, to this kind of stuff, like I said, it's not new anymore, it's not like underground, it's more mainstream in a sense, and you hate to use that word, but it really is, like I said, when we're going to sell 10,000 records in our first week, we're not doing anything different in that sense. We're not changing what we do. We're Cannibal Corpse. We're brutal death metal. So if we're going to sell 10,000 records, it's not because we're playing softer or we're playing songs that are more susceptible to the masses. In that kind of sense. Obviously, if we are more susceptible to the masses, well, then that just shows to me that society is changing. That there's always young, up-and-coming new kids and fans and all that, and they're getting into it, even earlier, and at an earlier age than ever before. But I think that has to do with the fact, like I said, that it's been around now. It's not like it's brand new. We're talking, we've been around for almost a quarter century. So I'm just gonna move up a little for these ladies. But anyways, yeah, I think that pretty much, how I feel about that.
Excellent. So what sort of things inspired the songs that you wrote lyrics to on this time around? The Demented Aggression, Encased in Concrete, As Deep as the Knife Will Go,
Right.
things like that?
It's all from within. I mean, I think, we've been around long enough as well. For myself personally, it's not like I'm sitting around watching all these movies and trying to gain all this inspiration. I mean, it really just comes down to as simple as, all right, we got songs, we know what they're going to be about. Obviously, we're not changing our subject matter up too drastically. It's always going to be about death and, murders and zombies and all this. So really it's just kind of coming up with something maybe a little bit different than we did in the past. And for me, it always starts with a song title. Obviously, yeah, if we got a song like Encased in Concrete, it's just a cool song title. It's a cool name for a song, it's a cool concept. So when we decide to make a song called Encased in Concrete, it's pretty self-explanatory what the subject matter may be about and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
And then that comes, just like I said, that just comes from within, making up the story and all that kind of stuff, and just delving into my own imagination. And that's how I write, and that's how all the 5 songs that I wrote came about. They came with song titles first, and then you kind of figure what the subject matter may be about, and then I just take it from there. And like I said, I just delve into the imagination and let that take over. So.
Okay. So now you worked out some back problems in the behind-the-scenes kind of videos on the album this time around. Have you ever thought about writing lyrics about how brutal that was? Because that sounded pretty crazy. You had this kind of torture rack kind of device, it looked like.
Well, it was very similar. I mean, obviously we had a couple songs, I mean, being torture with, you know, really 2 songs in specific being, you know, pertaining to torture devices, strangulation, you know, the strangulation chair and the intestinal crank. So those are our actual torture devices. I wouldn't call the inversion table a torture device because it really helps, you know, and it made me feel good. So if anything's to make it feel good, then that's not really a torture device. It might look like one, you know, but it wasn't. But no, I know you know, things happen, you know, injuries occur. It's just really coming down to just getting older, you know. I mean, those things happen at any given moment. I never really hurt my back playing drums. It just so happens that time. That's documented. We put it on, you know, online. There you go. And that's never happened since. You know, I just hurt my back 2 days ago, and you know what? How I did that? Bending down to pick something up. You know, so I mean, it's just part of life. You know, and it just made for good, you know, storytelling. It happened while we were recording. You know,
right,
I mean,
exactly.
it was you know, could have been a dilemma. Luckily,
right.
It wasn't. Luckily, we got that rectified and did the inversion table, and that really helped. But yeah, I mean, you know, if anything, we'll have to delve into the. You know, yeah, getting older kind of lyrics. I guess, you know, that's torture in itself. So.
Adult contemporary death metal?
Yeah. Hey, you never know. I mean, we're getting up there, right?
But yeah, obviously it didn't affect you because you even nailed one of the songs in
right.
one take this time around.
Yeah, well, luckily, like I said, when that happened, it was, you know, obviously we do the drums first, and that's the groundwork to recording, and you know, that needs to get done. If I'm not getting finished, then there's not much for the other guys to do, and then you're wasting money and you're wasting studio time and all that. Obviously, that was an unforeseen, just a, you know, physical thing that happens. Luckily, we rectified it, because if I wasn't able to go on that day, that rest of the day would have been lost. And like I said, that was just one of those things that happens. The next day I woke up, I was fine. You know, we moved on, and there you go. You know,
right.
So it's just a matter of, you know, dealing with things like that, and we do it on a daily basis. Like you said, those things are going to happen, you know, pretty much any time, or could, and you just got to deal with it. So.
Right, exactly. So you used a metronome for the last 2 albums of This Racing Plague and Torture. And you, apparently, Rob said you've been practicing a lot more. How has this affected the creation of your drum parts?
Well, tremendous. You know, I mean, I think it's apparent, really, if you follow the band and you know how we do things and how we've done things on the last couple of records, exactly, incorporating the metronome for Evisceration Plague and the writing. And that was a fairly new, you know, extremely new thing for me, brand new. You know, that's obviously well documented as well. And, you know, to me, looking back now in comparison, say, Torture and Evisceration and how everything went with the whole process and using the metronome, yeah, when we started writing for Evisceration, it was so new, you know, and I only had a few months to really adapt, and I don't think it was long enough, you know. I mean, I was as well prepared as I could be for once we went into the studio to record Evisceration. But looking back, was I 100%? No, you know, because it was too new. You know, I still needed time to work to get a feel for it more. And when we started writing Torture and we pulled out the metronome, and here we are starting to write, it was like night and day in my ability to go, you know what, it's not new anymore. So I had a feel, and then I was like, wow, you know, the more you play to it, the more you get it in your head, the more you practice, what have you, the easier things are going to come. So when we started writing and I started doing parts, I was like, man, I'm able to play around the click as opposed to being more kind of, like I said, like how it was for Evisceration, where I wasn't really, I was playing with the click, but that's about it. You know, I wasn't playing around it as much as I would have liked to, because it was very difficult to absorb that and to get that, you know, going. So I think it's, like I said, apparent if you listen to the drumming. I mean, they're both great albums. They're very precise. There's great drumming on Evisceration, but I mean, I think there's just more going on in Torture, and that really is because of me being able to wrap my head around myself around the click a lot easier, and being able to do more things freely around it. I felt so much more comfortable, you know. And I think, like I said, I think it's apparent when you listen to the drumming, you know, in comparison to both albums, that I'm obviously doing a lot more, you know. And that's all just, like I said, absorbing the click and, you know, being able to, you know, to work with it, you know, much better.
Excellent. So with Eric Rutan doing production again this time around, how was this experience at Sonic Ranch, in your opinion?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, you know, obviously we did the last 3 with Eric, and then this time changing it up, going to Sonic Ranch to, you know, to do at least half of the record. So, and it was new for Eric. We've been there before, of course, you know, and that's why we wanted to go back. We wanted to mix it up a little bit, not just go and do it in Eric's studio. But yeah, it was a great experience, of course. I mean, I think Eric enjoyed it. He's never worked there before, you know, a little different for him. But man, we really knew, you know, it was going to help. I mean, going, you know, living on the grounds, you know, not having to worry about traveling and driving and home kind of things. I mean, you know, it was very important for us to just concentrate on the job at hand. And it was a little more difficult to do that just doing it all at Eric's when we're all living at home, having to drive over an hour, you know, and then you're still dealing with things that happen at home. I mean, you know, unless it's something really life or death, it's kind of like, you know, you're still home. You might still have to deal with some things, and you know that could maybe tear at you know, your mental state a little bit more. So yeah, it was great going back to the studio, and we had a great time, and hopefully we'll go back. So.
Excellent. How has touring with Exhumed and Invisible Dawn been so far?
Oh, it's been great, man. I mean, all 3 of these bands, Archaic as well. Great bands, great guys. You know, we've done some stuff with Exhumed in the past, but you know, we like to showcase up and coming. You know, obviously Exhumed been around. You know, Abysmal fairly new for the most part, Archaic as well. But you know, it's a great package. It's you know, great brutality, and you know, everyone's getting along. Great guys, and we're having a good time. So you know,
awesome. That's what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you're obviously pretty fit and healthy because you're a drummer first and foremost. Now, how is it important? Or how important is it to keep healthy on tour?
Oh, it's as important as can be. Exactly. You know, we're not getting any younger. You know.
And what sorts of things do you do to stay fit on tour?
I just eat. I just try to eat right. I try to stay hydrated. I try to get as much sleep as you can. You know, I'm not a big workout kind of a guy. You know, I feel like I get enough of a workout behind the drums. You know, maybe I should lift some weights a little more, but it's never been me kind of a thing. So really, when it just comes down to, I think, you know, like what I just stated, you know, really being hydrated, you know, getting as much, you know, obviously we get a good sleep, just like any, you know, and eat right, just like any, you know, not a big, you know, surprise to any of that. That's just, you know, what people probably should be doing in life to make you feel a little bit better anyways, you know, so.
Right.
So I think, you know, those are really just what I do, you know.
Well, and on that topic, you actually got noticed by PETA a few years ago. They nominated you for that world's sexiest, was it world's sexiest vegetarian, right?
Yeah, something crazy, I guess.
Yeah, I think you lost to Prince that year.
Yeah, you know, I was just all in fun, really.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, I mean, just that my name's going to be in there, it's like, whatever, that's cool. But, you know, obviously there's a lot more notable vegetarians, you know, or a lot more, you know, famous than I am.
Right,
right. It was just kind of fun.
So in your 23rd, nearing 24th year as a band, what do you find is your biggest tour hobby now?
You know, nothing, man. Staying in contact with the family, you know. I mean, I don't do much. I mean, you know, it's pretty boring, you know. It's pretty boring on the road, you know. Everybody thinks it's all, you know, glamour and fun constantly. I mean, we're getting older, you know, you take your rest when you can get it, you know. I mean, on a day like today or days offs, it's like, you know, you just enjoy kind of just relaxing and, you know, not doing too much. I mean, for us, actually, for me in particular, perfect time, playoff hockey. So we've been watching playoffs every night, you know, so that's been the thing, you know. Having hockey every night, that was huge, you know. So if anything, that's been my, you know, my hobby on this tour, you know. But if we're talking another month, you know, we wouldn't have playoff hockey, so it's good to have that.
Playoff basketball's on now, too.
Yeah. I'm not a big basketball fan. I'll watch it maybe towards the end, but I'm a huge hockey fan, so we're watching hockey every night.
You going for the Nashville Preds at all?
I don't mind them. I'm glad, you know, it's bittersweet. They got Paul Gostad, the old Buffalo Sabre, and been there for 10 years, and you know, I'm of course a big Sabres fan, being from Buffalo. That's my team, so they're out now. It's a little tough. I mean, it would be cool. You know, I like other teams winning. You know, it would be kind of cool in Nashville. I think I'm going a little more St. Louis. You know, okay. I kind of like the older teams that have been around for a while that haven't won it. You know, I'm still a little like weird about, you know, expansion teams and, you know, teams that, you know, I don't know, get you know, relocated and stuff. So you know, my team's out, but either way, it's really just about good hockey. So as long as we got some good games, that's all that matters.
Excellent. So last question. Last time you said in the last interview I did with you, you said we're doing what we want to do. We're a brutal death metal band. We're not doing anything that's really commercially viable, but we're selling a lot of records.
Right.
Cannibal Corpse is obviously successful. Now, have you ever thought about doing a side project outside of Cannibal? Because you've done Cannibal only.
Yeah, I've done a side project. It was about 10 years ago I did one. Me and Jack Owen actually did one. As I said, about 10 years ago, we had a project of course, lived in Tampa, so we actually played 2 shows in Tampa, a small bar called the Brass Mug. It's actually a pretty good hot spot for extreme music and underground metal and all that kind of thing. But that was it. We played 2 shows. We made some home demos and all that. And, we were going to see if something came out of that. And then, basically Jack didn't want to do it anymore and just all fell apart, what have you. But, it was fun. And like I said, that was about 10 years ago. The last maybe about a year or so. And, it fell apart and, ever since, nothing. So, yeah, maybe, it'd be kind of cool. We're really busy with Cannibal, obviously. And, we'll see what happens, but it was a lot of fun doing that, so maybe in the future that could be something that I would look into. But
I mean, your tour cycle for the last record lasted 2 years.
Exactly, and it's going to be no different for Torture. So it really comes into how much work you want to do and how much extra stuff you want to things you want to accomplish. And like I said, we're very busy with this band and all that, so it takes a lot out of you and a lot of time and effort and all that. So we'll see what happens. Like right now, I'm not, having an itch as much as I did back when we formed that side band, and we'll see. You never know what the future holds. So,
excellent.
It'll be fun again.
So you guys have another leg of the tour coming up after this part is done?
Well, I mean, we're just got different chunks. I mean, we're going to Europe for June, doing a bunch of festivals, doing some headliners, some opening slots, and we come back, do the Summer Slaughter in summertime. Going to Australia, Japan in October. We're supposed to be doing another tour in November in the States. So, it's just a bunch of worldwide stuff throughout the year and well into next year. So, Torture just came out 2 months ago. So obviously we're in the early stages of all this touring, but it's good to be busy, that's for sure. We're very happy that we're busy, and we got the work the work out there for us to come to these places or to go to these places and play for the world. So we're happy about that.
There you go. You want to give a last little spot to buy Torture?
Well, just appreciate it for the interview. Thanks for the fans for the support. Keep supporting death metal, Cannibal Corpse. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here. That is all.
There you go.